Hi there, Sandra here from createinspain and Siser, Juliet, Beginners to Pro. I am using Procreate at the moment to show you something which is very simple to do and has numerous uses in card making and other types of paper crafting. So this particular image isn't one that I've drawn. This is just an image that I downloaded from Pixabay. If you want to get this precise image, all I did was plug in Floral papers, I think that's what it was, and this one came up and I thought it was just right for what I wanted to do. So you might be thinking, okay, so you've got your image, so what do you actually want to do with it? Well, I wanted to make a card that had this area here cut out as a separate dimension, and then I wanted to have the butterfly cut out as a separate entity as well. So I would have this print and then I would have two layers of decoupage basically on the top of it. Now normally when I'm tracing things I just go into shortcut slot and I do my image tracing and that's that. But in this particular case, I've got like a watercolor effect. The colors are quite muted. There's no real strong lines that I want to go around. And it would be a really difficult trace. So in all fairness, it is far easier to do a manual trace on my iPad than it is to do it any other way. So what you do is you create another layer, and I've already done this a couple of times. So for example, this one is the layer that I wanted to create for the bigger shape. And if I turn that one off and show this one is the layer that I created for the butterfly. Now all I had to do with that was to select a pen tool, make it so that it didn't have too much of a wriggle factor in it, and just draw around it and then drag my colour into it to create a solid thing to trace around. Because what's going to happen, I'm going to import this into shortcut slot in its separate layers. I'll import the image, I will import these two separately, and then I will have the entire lot. Now the advantage of these black shapes is that they will trace very easily, no problem whatsoever. So all you do after that is you do a share, and you do it the normal way with your iPad, and you share it to your laptop or your desktop, whatever it is that you're using. Now you can do this in other apps if you choose to do it in a different app. Procreate is not a vector app, it is a pixel app. So you can save to PNG, to JPEG, various other formats, but it's a pixel based one. And what you want when you are using cut lines is vector. Now I could, if I wanted to, go into Affinity and put this into Affinity and trace it precisely with a vector line. I could also do it in other apps. There's Vectornator, which is a free one, the Affinity series, which are relatively low cost. The other one that you can use, and I don't know what the pricing is like for it now, is Concepts. And Concepts is a vector drawing app that doesn't do things like compound piles and that sort of stuff. Vectornator does, Affinity does, but Concepts is a drawing design app. It doesn't do things like compound piles and extraction of piles one from the other, that sort of stuff. But it's very simple to use, so if you don't think you can cope with other ones, you might like to take a look at Concepts. But anyway, that's what I do, is I do a manual trace on it. It doesn't take very long, and then I put it to my laptop. Now I'm going to switch over to my laptop now to show you how I cope with it once it's there. I've got my image in here and I have actually traced the shape that I imported as well. So if I switch my image off, if I just click on the eyeball here so you don't see it, you can see that I've actually got the image that I traced. So that is actually a cut line. If you select it and you go over to the wrench, you can see that it is a cut line. I want to change that to a print and cut, cut only, because if you do a print and cut, cut only, it won't print that line. If you do a normal cut, it will actually print it. So I don't actually want it to print, I just want it to cut it, so that's what I've set it to. Now if I switch this one on and switch that one off, this is my background image. Now unless you put a cut frame around it, it will not have a cut line, it will solely be a print. So just draw a rectangle and put the rectangle around it, and then you will have your print and you will have your cut line. So you can see this one is set to print and cut, cut, and then underneath it I have a print and cut, print. Now the reason I wanted to show you this is because if I print out the entire frontage, that's fine, but when I'm cutting little bits out of it, I don't want to cut out, or I don't want to print, I should say, the entire image again. I really only want to print part of it. So unless you actually do a reduced image to put in the first place, so you trim your image before you put it in, you're going to be left with a big print and possibly a very small cut. So the way to get around this is to select it all when you've got your shape where you want it, go to Object, go to Clip Path and set Clip Path. And then you find it gets rid of the background. You have a mask there, and basically all you're going to be printing is white space, like that. If you check your preview, you can see that your cut lines are there. That's what you're going to be printing. Okay, so you've got it exactly as you want it. And you may or may not be bothered enough to do that. It's up to you. However, if you're doing more than one image, you can stack these over each other. So for example, if I wanted to, I could go to Object, Duplicate, and I could have 3 of these. There we go. And I can put these over each other. You can see in the preview that I've only got the cut lines where I want them. I haven't got them anywhere else. And so that means you can squeeze a lot more onto your printed page. And in fact, I've just done a card where all the design was done on one page print, and that was it. I just printed, did a print to cut, and then I just put the card together. So I'm going to show you now what the card has come out like. So here's my finished card, and hopefully you can actually see the dimension with the flowers are raised there, and then the butterfly is on top of that layer as well. Some of the extra butterflies I put around the edge, I put another one here, and then on the inside I put another 3 butterflies. So this looks like quite a fancy card, but it didn't take very long to do. I did a sentiment with some gold Siser PSV, so it's a glittery gold one, which I thought went quite nicely with the colouring, and that finished it off. So there we have it. Relatively quick to do, certainly easy enough to do, and if you look on Pixabay, there are loads and loads and loads of images that you can choose from to make your pretty cards. I chose to do this one and give it a really wide border on an A5 base, because I think it actually warrants that kind of size. I don't think it would look as good in a smaller version. And I think the extra wide base around it just makes it stand out even more. Okay, that's it. Hope you found it useful. I'll speak to you again soon. Take care.